Welcome to the Calgary Environmental Roundtable Municipal Election Campaign, led by the Gravity Well podcast with me, Jenny Yeremy. The Calgary Environmental Roundtable, or CERT for short, is a nonpartisan coalition of environmental and climate organizations working together to ensure that water, nature, and climate are front of mind, and that our members have an ongoing opportunity to shape the future of our city. Through our candidate questionnaire, mayoral and ward podcast panels, and voter engagement tool, CERT is connecting residents with candidates, elevating environmental priorities, and empowering Calgarians to make informed choices at the ballot box. Municipal decisions directly affect the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the communities we live in. As Calgary continues to grow, we must prioritize clean water, biodiversity, and bold climate action to ensure a safe and thriving city for generations to come. Our list of supporters is growing. Reach out to add your organization. Send your candidates and network the CERT questionnaire. Encourage their participation and ongoing relationship building with their representatives. Remember to follow, like, subscribe, and share the Gravity Well podcast. Together we can build a resilient, healthy, and sustainable city for all Calgarians.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Calgary Environmental Roundtable's Building a Greener Future for Calgary Municipal Election Campaign and Podcast mini-series. Today I am looking forward to speaking with your Ward 12 candidate, Sarah Ferguson. But first, just a little bit of housekeeping. I just want to say thank you again to the folks that have participated. So thanks to Jeremy Farkas for Mayor, Ali Unwala for Ward 1, Jennifer Winus and Trevor Kavanagh for Ward 2, Andrew Yule and Jasprina Jahal for Ward 3, DJ Kelly for Ward 4, David Barrett, Anthony Askew, and Mike Atkinson for Ward 7, Miguel Cortines for Ward 8, Harrison Clark, Marina Ortman, and Shirley Perringao-Doe for Ward 9, Alex Williams, and Courtney Penner of Ward 11 for your participation. I was thinking it's getting long, but I thought, what the heck, we're almost done. So why not just keep thanking everybody who participated. So again, you can check out their conversations with me on the Gravity Well YouTube channel or on my website, thegravitywell.net. The links are included. I will include them in live stream chat. Please check out my conversation with Heather McKenzie of Solar Alberta in absence of the Ward 6 conversation. Great combo about the future of solar and, the potential misunderstandings that we have around solar deployment in the province. Really important, especially if you're a landowner. That was very eye-opening for me that the province is inhibiting landowners from investing in solar on their own lands. It's pretty alarming, actually. Anyway. And so if you live in Ward 5, 6, 10, or 13, or are rooting for Mayor Gondek, Brian Thiessen, Sonia Sharp, or Jeff Davidson, please ask your candidates to participate in the CERT questions. We greatly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to speaking with Ward 14 on Friday if I hear from them that they are confirmed. Okay, so that is everything from me. I'm just going to remind folks that note that the candidates hold a range of environmental positions and priorities and objectives. Positions taken by participants either individually or collectively do not necessarily represent those of the Calgary Environmental Roundtable as a whole. Again, CERT and this campaign do not endorse or recommend any candidates or political parties. I will do my best to offer my own personal endorsements, though, next week, and I plan on doing a summary of some clips of everyone who's participated. So thank you again for those who did. Lastly, please remember to follow, like, and subscribe to the Gravity Well podcast. Together, we can build a resilient and healthy and sustainable city for all Calgarians. Okay, now we get to the fun part. Welcome to the stage, Sarah. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and read through your bio, but you're welcome to expand on it after I do. So for the past 4 years, Sarah has worked as constituency assistant for Ward 12. She's served as a trusted advocate connecting community needs to local government action. With nearly a decade of advocacy and volunteer experience, she is able to navigate municipal services with expertise, ensuring residents' concerns reach City Hall. Sarah's vision for Ward 12 is focused on strong community engagement, enhanced public spaces, and responsive, accountable governance. Her unique blend of professional knowledge and heartfelt dedication to community makes her a vital force in advancing the progress and well-being of Ward 12's vibrant neighborhoods. And I love that you listed all 12 of them here, because I am like a big fan of like where I don't know which communities sit within Ward 6, because it's different than provincial and it's different than federal. So it's you don't it's hard to keep track of all of those things, and I think it's really important to acknowledge those communities. So
and especially Ward 12 has grown a lot since even the 2021 election. So, it is kind of like a joke at the doors when people are like, well, what's part of Ward 12? And I'll say, like, here's the 6 communities you've heard of, and here's the 6 you've never heard of. Like there is, it's growing real fast out here. There is a lot happening.
So, okay, now I'm going to show some ignorance. Where are these? Auburn Bay, Copperfield, Cranston. Okay, so we're talking, Mackenzie Town, New Brighton, Nostalgia. Okay, so this is down southeast Calgary?
That's right, the very southeast corner of our city. So that's right. So we've got like the big communities that most people have heard of are things like Mackenzie Town, Mahogany, and Seton, and Cranston are kind of our biggest, longest communities, I guess, at this point as well. And then, of course, New Brighton, Copperfield, Auburn Bay. And then we have the new communities, Hotchkiss, Sora, Heartwood, Rangeview, Seton Ridge, Logan Landing, and Nostalgia.
Oh, well done. You've done it like that in alphabetical order, just like I have done for.
Did I? Because I have to like picture it on the map. I go through in my head and like tick them off. Oh, and of course the hamlet of Shepherd is my last one, which is kind of tucked off to the corner of.
You say Shepherd and Sora. Is that what you mean? Okay.
Yeah,
that's so cool. Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
I love my communities. It's really neat. And like it's its own unique, right? Like other than Shepherd, our communities are all pretty new. Mackenzie Town is kind of the oldest otherwise, and
which is wild to think of because I came in to Calgary when Mackenzie Town was growing, which now dates me. So that's really I moved in 2000 to Calgary.
Yeah.
So,
when I was in high school, one of my good friends lived in Mackenzie Lake. And she worked at the Second Cup in Mackenzie Town, and we came out here, and I was like the roundabout and everything. I'm like, what is even happening? Like, where are we? Like, I grew up in the Southwest. I've in Strathcona, so coming out this way, it was definitely quite something when I was in high school. There was houses.
And for being here for 22 years, I just have not. I don't explore much Calgary. Like it feels like you're in your quadrant, and that's kind of where you stay. It seems so. Yeah, you're right. Unless I moved, I wouldn't know those communities well at all. Okay.
And we ended up, so I grew up in Southwest, but my husband's family is in High River. So we ended up splitting the difference and picking Mackenzie Town.
Oh, nice.
And that was 2012. We moved here.
Right on.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you for a little bit of background on you. So we're just going to walk through those 7 questions again. But thank you for taking the time to fill out the survey already, so people can look at that when I post where this video is posted as well. But we'll just walk through them now, and I'll offer some insights maybe too, just because there's 2 of us, just for you and what I've enjoyed through this process. Okay, so the first question is: Calgary's climate strategy outlines 5-year goals to reduce energy poverty and utility costs, create clean economy jobs, improve public health, and build more equitable, climate-resilient communities. If elected, how will you work to achieve these outcomes for your ward?
So, we have a great plan from the city that talks about these things very specifically. And there is honestly far smarter people that have been working on that than I can ever dream to be. And they have great advice. And out here we have, as an example, even our storm pond system is very different than, say, inner city. And it's really cool. Like, it's really fascinating how our storm ponds are all attached and how it is this filter to get our water back to the river in as clean as manner as possible. So there is these pieces out here that do matter for the big picture of our water situation, and making sure that we are, our communities were very much intentionally built. They have a lot of these factors in place already. So it's making sure we're using them to capacity and as they're supposed to be used when they're already in place.
Wonderful. So I love that you led with, you have a staff that is very knowledgeable in these areas and have put together these plans for good reason. And to acknowledge that is a really great place to begin with. The differences in the wards, I've heard this throughout this conversation too, that there are different needs in each ward for the environment, and that the development in your areas did try to consider those natural processes. And those natural filtering processes for our water that's so important. Yeah, that's great. Wonderful stuff. Yeah. The other thing I've heard in this is talking about some measurable goals, like so that the keeping those clear and out front, and people have spoken about making sure that climate is in each of the thought processes as the city makes decisions. That it's those are some of the things that I took away from some answers from.
And especially like it is better fiscal management to be better stewards of our resources and be very aware of how we're using them. So ways that we can find efficiencies also is good fiscal planning. So not only is it important for climate reasons, with a big push on fiscal management in the next while in particular, it's important that we're acknowledging how these issues are also reflected in that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Those understanding that the long-term investment is just so important for these things, and that it isn't that costly. It can be baked in to a tight budget. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is around community development and redevelopment. How will you ensure that new community development and redevelopment in Calgary protects our watershed, rivers and creek valleys, wetlands, and wildlife and urban biodiversity who depend on these ecosystems? That's a mouthful. Thank you.
Yeah. So in my time in the Ward 12 office, a big one down here is the Ricardo Ranch ASP. And the piece in particular is that the communities that they are building, Nostalgia, Logan's Landing, Seton Ridge, that are down the ridge, down to the river area, they are encroaching on some really incredible ecological areas. And there has been advocates. I've been out for walks with them. And, a lot of this land use and this process was approved before I was here, before I knew anything about any of it. But now having these conversations and having these groups that are already doing this work and learning so much and are able to tell me about the work that they've been doing, and that I've been able to hear that when we've been having conversations with, developers and the city about what's happening, having that knowledge helps us to push back when they try to push, right? I mean, it's what developers do. It's part of what they do is to make sure that they are taking as much, like building as many homes and trying to maximize profit as much as possible. But on the flip side, the reason people want to move to these spaces is because of these amazing ecological pieces. So as we hear from these advocacy groups, these ones that want to do the work, we know when to push back and as much as we possibly can to make sure they are protected from this role. So through that process, I learned a lot. But then now also, as Ward 12 has a lot of land, and as we start to look at continuing to have communities and go and approve things, I am now armed with this knowledge that I've already learned to continue to make sure that we are continuing this advocacy and hearing from the groups and making sure their input is talked about as we plan more, which I think it's been so exciting. Like even from the there's the group that really focuses on native plants in the area, and they like to get into development areas and come out and like protect the native plants. And then they even in Logan's Landing, they've like offered seeds for natural grasses and everything and like different pieces. It's really fascinating. I love these groups that do this work, and it is important that we are engaging with them and hearing from them to learn about more planning, especially in this corner of the city where it's new development and that, right? I don't have as much comment on redevelopment because it's other
Not
parts
really
of the city
okay.
a lot more.
Yeah, makes sense. I understand that for sure. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, I love you gave a specific example, like Ricardo Ranch has been, and I think you're describing, I can't even think of, maybe you'll help me remember the name of the organization, but they will recover the native plant species as a development goes in and reallocate it through people like me who are looking to renaturalize in their yards, or my husband and I back onto the ring road, and we have a lease with our community to renaturalize that area. So we've taken some for that that reason. Yeah. And it's, like you said, it's the best people. Like this work it's so nice to be working with people, because a lot of this work happens through volunteership. This is a lot of like me, like this is my personal time. This isn't anything more than that. And I don't think people appreciate how much fun it is to just work with people and do simple things like learn what native seeds are the ones that we should be using, and where to deploy it, and all of these great pieces that can come at very low cost, but really just that early engagement, which is what I heard from you from groups like us. Yeah.
That's it. And I love it. And I love finding these groups and having them find me. And, I've learned so much over my years of volunteering and board governance and advocacy and finding the paths forward and learning about grants. And so these groups, I love talking to them and talking about what I've learned. And then of course, the big part is learning so much for them on how our city works and from their perspective and the things that they need.
Yeah, the one thing I can say is, again, just from my learning through this and the advocacy work that I've been doing is that we need support, we need a voice from council. It's not something that happens without that relationship. You know what I mean? So the fact that you acknowledge that is so important. So thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
It's one of my policy pillars here of why I'm running is that's a big piece of it that I want to keep doing that work. As an assistant, I really got into it, but now it's even, as a counselor, you have even more
yeah. And as you said, it's just logical, right? It's feel good work. It's good for the community. And like you said, and I forgot to highlight, these ecosystems are why people move to these places. We move near a beautiful functioning river, not through something that is dried up. It's a very logical choice. Like you said, it's the appeal. Okay. So we'll move into budgeting. So how will you commit budget dollars towards protecting Calgary's biodiversity and improving wildlife safety in urban environments, including through measures such as enforcing bird-friendly building standards, retrofitting, we talked about, you don't really have that in your area, and supporting safe corridors? Thank you.
So right now, budget is going to be the hot topic for the next while. We are, we're at a $500 million deficit annually for our budget as a city, and we are going to be looking for efficiencies and pinching pennies everywhere we can. So having a lot of money for broad things is going to be tough for the next while. But there is a lot that we can do to help support. So of course, when retrofitting and all these different pieces come in, yes, it makes more sense, fiscal responsibility, to spend a little extra money to be more resilient, better with our resources and all that. So definitely that piece. But then also, there's a lot of ways where the city can support and get out of the way to help groups that are already doing the work and getting that information out there. So when you talk about bird-friendly Calgary and those pieces, that communication piece can be on council and on the city to make sure that communication is happening with folks that are already doing that work, and making sure they're connecting with the people that are building and retrofitting and doing all these other pieces as that goes ahead, so that they can actually connect directly in and be informed and educated on how those pieces help. And council and the city can help with that big time.
Right on. So empowering. You were talking about the limited budget and how it will be, the focus. And one of the things that came into this conversation was around renaturalizing those city mowing areas, not only from a cost perspective, but from a water security and longevity perspective. And that hits that sort of easy budget item. It's a one-time cost, likely the same as deploying that annual thing, and then it becomes this average. And not that people wouldn't work on other things, to be clear, because I understand people are impacted by those decisions. That's just my own logic in this. And then
sorry, I was just going to add, naturalization is such a cost-efficient way to do things better, and it looks so much better. It is a process, and it does, as you would know, it takes years for it to really show up and look as good as it can. Mm-hmm. But we need to have these conversations about what naturalization actually is, compared to just saying it's letting weeds grow, because that is doing such a disservice to what naturalization truly is and how our city can benefit from, first off, that it'll look better than the grass that goes dormant in July most years. This year's not a typical year. We had a lot of rain this year. And then also like how much nicer it looks, how much lower maintenance it is, and how much easier it is on our water systems and our ecology in the area, and how much better it is in general. But most importantly, it is cheaper long term.
Yes, this is just it. It's, we changed out our front lawn and have planted, and it's nice to watch different things come in and like, is this native, is it not? And we, so we're getting that all sorted out. But yeah, it's now interesting, and like, I'm curious what's growing with it, and it's manageable too for the things that have come in. So anyway, thank you very much. And you talked about empowering the groups and organizations that are doing this, thinking about how to help in a budget sense and in a environmental sense as well. Yeah, and those, the other thing I'll just add is those opportunities to educate people about bird-friendly standards is something that's super cheap, but would go a long way. Like, I didn't really think about the fact that every community matters in terms of birds. It's a numbers game that way. It's not. I always thought it was just central downtown that was the biggest issue, and that's not the case. So yeah.
No, we have avid bird watchers out here. And as cliche millennial as I apparently am, I am starting to dabble in it when I get a little amped up on seeing a bird I've never seen before. So
yeah, that's awesome. And you touched on something too, that we need to be specific about what renaturalization is. Again, that comes with that education. I can learn a lot more in this space, and I've been trying. So I'm sure if the city had more info out for people, it would go a long way. And then, like you said, somebody else, I think it was Courtney Penner, that said, like, just putting trees that need to be watered in a space is not renaturalizing, because you're setting yourself up for a thing that can't be done long term necessarily if there's a water shortage. So yeah.
Yes, and that's a big topic out here. So in Ward 12, we had a lot of trees planted in boulevards, but they made the boulevards much more narrow. So they are not getting enough water, and so many of them have died. A lot of them are finally getting removed, but we need a new path forward for our boulevards to make them look nice. So we are looking at like partnering with we have a lot of residents associations out here, HOAs, but different ways that we can activate even these boulevards to be naturalized, zero-scaped, looking real good on what that process is. And as a city, we need to start moving forward with what we are doing with our boulevards and getting out of the way. Developers even want to be more creative with what's happening on their boulevards, as far as, again, low maintenance, looking good, those kind of cost-efficient, eco-friendly aspects. Like if you go into Okotoks, their boulevards are really nice. They are naturalized beautifully.
Is gorgeous, and it's like it's the pillar. Like I actually have to credit one of the members of the Okotoks Council, Rachel, who is an environmental. You know her, yeah. So
love her. Yes,
yeah, she's amazing, and she got me involved in the Bow River Basin Council. So I'm on one of their committees. I'm on the coordinating committee, which is nice because I get to see all the organizations within the Bow Basin that are working and how hard they work. And like you're saying, with this limited budget that they're given, and like from an industry perspective, because I'm a geophysicist, that they don't have the freedom to say where the money should be spent and where's the best bang for your buck. And that's where I say those relationships with councils members goes so far. So
that's it. And then, and the interesting small towns too, watching what they do, especially in this realm of like the climate and like all those different ecological pieces, because they can pivot faster and they can make plans easier than a big city. Like, we should be watching a lot more of what they're doing, because it's really cool. And Rachel in particular has been really innovative in Okotoks.
Oh, amazing. Like you're saying, even like the co-op housing and things like that have been explored there and is expanding. Yes, I think they're like a postage, that's not selling it well. They're just something that could be duplicated, replicated for each potentially ward, in my view. It's like a blueprint. That's the word I'm looking for, what they've done.
That's it, right? To see how it's worked. Yeah, and stuff, creative things like, pushing for new development isn't just Kentucky bluegrass. Like, they do have to do drought-resistant grasses, and these type of forward-thinking plans that we can start looking at how we can implement them here when we see how they do in Okotoks and things like that. Like,
Yeah, like I love that they also have, because you said the one end and the other is to make sure that you have vegetation too. Because I know like even us, because we're wanting things to grow, we didn't plant a ton of stuff, but we want it to be full when it's, so they have like a ratio that they want to see in terms of green versus mulch and things like that,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just
concrete that doesn't help. That just,
no.
so
Yeah, and this sounds like a lot of fun when we're talking about this to me. Like seeing just this beautiful stuff come back in such an incredible way would just be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. So what steps will you take to ensure housing, rent, and transit in Calgary are affordable and accessible so that more Calgarians can access services with dignity and live and work in a healthy city? Thank you.
Well, so that is definitely, so of course, we don't have a lot of, like at a municipal level, there's not a lot of say in things like rent. And, but we do have the capacity to encourage our city partners that are really doing great work with the housing situation, like attainable homes, Calgary housing, closer to home, like these really great programs that we have that we can really help them make actual capital A affordable housing where people that are struggling with those funds can get into versus, this grand plan that we're working with city partners to get like lower case A affordable housing where it's like trying to level out the actual cost of homes to make sure that, people can start to afford homes again, right? Because there's kind of the two streams of affordable housing that come up in conversation, right? And then, of course, transit in Ward 12, like it sucks out here. And when we talk about that a lot, and a lot of the time, the conversation, the way it comes up is specifically around how heavy traffic is, how bad parking is. And we hear that all the time, like from the communities out here. So, and then it's like, the way to work on that, the best path forward and the most cost efficient way to try to get cars off the road is making transit a viable option. So we have the Green Line coming out here. I've been talking about the Green Line for, like a decade easily now, between volunteering on the Mackenzie Town Community Association, when it was already said it was going to start happening, to finally ground broke this summer. So it's coming out here to just behind 130th, but it won't see trains till 2031. And that's still that's a ways away for us to be, still dealing with poor transit out here. So I've helped advocate, and I'm excited to see a BRT route coming to 52nd. So that's going to be a huge improvement. And then to see because that'll be consistent, reliable transit that's fairly close to a lot of people, I think from there we'll see a higher usage, which will then be able to spiral into increased transit and how that'll work. And then I think it'll be more of an option, especially for the kids. Like out here, there is definitely a boom from like that 2007, 2008 age range. So they're all at that age now where, they are having to get cars because parents can't drive them everywhere at this point anymore. And so hopefully we can really get this ball going here quickly, that age group in particular can really, get around on transit as a real option to go visit their friends and get to school and get to college and university. So transit is a huge topic out here to really try to get our traffic down.
Fantastic. Yeah. So you led with rent is not necessarily something that's inside your ability as an elected council member, but that you can lean on those relationships with nonprofits and those organizations that are building that accessible home.
And Acorn is a big one that's really trying to make progress. And I think that's another one that having that voice lifted from council to talk about the work that they are doing for in the rental realm, and making sure people are educated on it. And, of course, it's been, almost, what is it now? It's been 15 years since I've been in the rental market. It's been a while, so I'm out of touch with it. And I know it has changed huge in the past just 5 years, let alone in the past 15. So having those conversations with people and lifting the voice of Acorn to talk about the reality of the rental situation is going to be important to really make sure that people understand what's really happening right now with the housing.
Yeah, thank you so much. I heard, I've said it in this already, Mayor Gondak say that there's hundreds of thousands of people that are on the verge of being homeless if they cannot, work, in their role, kind of in their jobs, I should say. So, that's a scary number to have out there. And with rents potentially increasing, that could get bigger. And So it's very important that that you look to organizations like Acorn that can help advocate for those spaces for people that they can afford, and to make sure that, like you said, somebody else said it in here. Oh yeah, it was in the Ward 9 conversation about how affordable doesn't mean accessible in this city right now. There is a massive deficit, and we have to make sure that that accessible piece is with that. You said the capital A piece, I think is what you were meaning.
Yes. Right. Yeah, that's right. The actual, city partners, publicly funded, affordable housing that actually matters to help people not be homeless, essentially, right? Like that piece compared to, yes, the little a affordable, that's, the regular people that are buying houses and struggling with down payments, and making sure that we can keep that balanced as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and I don't want to skip over what you offered with transit, that you are aware that the line is not going to be active until 2031. And so you need that bus circuit until that time, and that you've got that route in place, which is wonderful. And with that increased usage will lead to more accessibility, et cetera. So it's that positive feedback loop that you're looking to achieve.
Yep. And just keep picking away at it, keep getting it a little bit better every time, just,
awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So next question is around ENMAX. So ENMAX is wholly owned by the city of Calgary. So what role do you see ENMAX for helping the city achieve its 2035 clean electricity goals? Thank you.
Yeah. So that's I've learned a lot about ENMAX and our energy sector. And it's at that point where it's like, I've learned enough to know I know so little about it. So I feel like this is like one of those big questions to step in. I'm like, I am not going to answer this real great, but I can talk about the really the interesting pieces that I know ENMAX has been working on. And they are engaged in this conversation. They are interested in this as well. And again, because those efficiencies mean fiscal efficiencies as well. And we have the Shepherd energy station. It's not a station, it's called something different. I'm drawing a blank on the name again, but out here in Ward 12.
Power generation. Yeah.
Yeah. And they actually take our gray water and use it. So they use natural gas and then our gray water with the steam to increase the level of energy that they're creating from that. So that's really cool. That's very innovative. And we see these huge steam plumes out here, in the winter in particular from that power station. Those things are really cool. They are looking to be innovative. And from the city council perspective, we just need to be encouraging that innovation, encouraging those conversations, and listening from the people at ENMAX that are really excited about these kinds of initiatives as well.
Yeah, that's the Shepherd is actually so I'm going to be a bit of a nerd for you because I'm a geophysicist, so I can add to that. So Shepherd is a cogen facility, so it captures the heat waste from natural gas processing, if you will. So that energy goes back into the system and reduces the amount of overall energy needed to run it. So yes, that is a very that is to me the best example of a natural gas facility. So yes. And what's come up in this conversation too is the potential for it to lead to some other things that could be neat locally, like using that carbon dioxide to make local food from, if we were to incorporate some greenhouses and stuff around that facility, might be something that could be very meaningful for the city of Calgary long term, and would be something really cool to do with that, that investment that had been made for Calgary by ENMAX. So yeah,
I love that idea. That's cool.
Yeah, and that was Bob Hawksworth, who was a city councillor for 23 years, by the way, in the city of Calgary. So he did the opening example of this conversation for us. So if you're interested, you can check that out later. But yeah, he's a brilliant man. I do a lot of work with him, just again, this volunteership piece. So yeah. Okay. So how will you, so this is around water. So how will you advance sustainable water use and watershed protection in Calgary's growth and development decisions? Thank you.
A big quote you hear all the time around the city is that we're a big city on two small rivers. And not only that, a lot of our water is used by, you know, downstream, that the like what we put back into it is, you know, so it is a big piece of the conversation, and we need to be better stewards for our water. We have been very fortunate to, you know, for things like, I mean, communities surrounding us, they all have a watering schedule in the summer, as an example. And of course, last year it came to council to talk about having a watering schedule actually in place, but the timing of it was right during like when the water main broke, and the the rhetoric from community members and the city and folks in the city, it was not the time to pass that watering schedule type of movement. But there is these ideas kind of sitting ready, like locked and loaded, that we can encourage better water usage, especially like, I mean, a watering schedule would be just such a huge difference for us here, right? Especially, you know, this year, yes, we were very lucky that it was as much rain as we got, but we are still considered in a drought in southern Alberta. It did not put a dent into that realm of things for us. And so we really need to be much more aware of our water usage. And I do think even, you know, silver lining of that water main break that was really rough last year on all of us was that I think as a city, we became more aware of our water usage. You know, there's a lot more people using rain barrels this year than there were last year. Like these kinds of nice pieces to it, which we ended up really not needing rain barrels a ton with how much rain we had. But next year is going to be another year again, and it is likely going to be very dry. We need to start talking about these real conversations of, you know, policy that encourages better water stewardship, including things like a watering schedule in the summer.
Wow. I have one word I just want to get down. Okay, so yeah, you talked about the water restrictions. This is something that Courtney Penner brought into the conversation. I didn't understand that Calgary was on the verge of water restrictions this spring. And then, of course, everything changed with that really interesting July that was wet, right? That was extremely unexpected. So you're right. It's but this is how important these events are in terms of our water security and accessibility, right? So thank you for just understanding the need for the city to also think about. You talked about water, limiting water use, but also I would offer water retention. I think you sort of touched on this. If we invest in that renaturalization stuff, then we get this better water retention, which allows for this a longer and more likely supply of water than this situation we're in, which is mostly drought, like you said. So yeah, thank you very much. I think you've, to me, it's really about caring with the bar, you know, like we got to care about these things. And so thank you for taking the time to understand that fully.
No, and we have to talk about them, because honestly, like as dry as it's been, even with this summer and stuff like that, like generally people don't really know that we are in a drought. Like our whole, like those gardening zones, that they all changed, I think in like 2023, that we are in a different zone now than we were. That is drier. And, you know, that's how far along in this drought process. So, yeah. So like, and these are important conversations to have with people, so they realize that we're not just trying to be like a mean council, or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, we're not just trying to be like,
right. Yeah. Like, you know, I've learned from the watershed councils, like we are a fully allocated basin. There are no more water licenses to be issued. So all decisions should be made from that understanding that there is no more water to be had. Like a new development now needs to be thought of in, will there be water available for that if we're expecting the city to max out? And for somebody who's managing all of this growth, this is something that you have to be, like you said, honest with people. It's not about being mean. It's about being realistic about what's possible for the city to maintain.
And even like another piece of the conversation, you know, we have a couple community lakes out here, but community lakes aren't getting approved by the city anymore for the next foreseeable future because of how much of a drain they are on our water services. We are maxed out at that. So now it is, you know, communities are looking for things like pools instead, which, you know, use the same water repeatedly kind of thing. It's not as draining on it. Splash pads, those kinds of things, like water features that use and conserve water very efficiently.
Right. Yeah, that's such a great point. And I did want to say this line you added, which is big city with two small rivers, because you're right. That is something I've heard. I know that. So it's really important. And that we have a whole agriculture system that is dependent on our water downstream. So we're not even the bigger user. So yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Great ads. Okay, so believe it or not, you made it to the last question. So how will you ensure recommendations from Calgarians, including residents, frontline communities, environmental groups, and city staff are meaningfully considered in council decisions? Thank you.
And that comes back to that communication piece again, and engagement, and really, there's the groups doing the hard work already. So listening to them, learning from them, and being able to be informed on these conversations and lifting their voices. And then also, of course, talking to the citizens of Calgary, the constituents out here in Ward 12 would be my responsibility to really communicate to the reality of the situation and what we're looking at and why we're making the decisions, right? And inevitably, especially in this realm, because it does come down to a lot of conservation, a lot of awareness around how we need to be better stewards for these things. It does ruffle feathers a lot, but so it's always about being honest and showing up for those conversations to have them, and recognizing that some people along the way will not be exactly excited about them, and that we have to continue having those conversations and making sure that we are engaged with the concerns and hearing about them directly so that we can address them as they come.
Yeah, that's just all sounded very realistic, Sarah. Like you talked about that engagement first. So making sure that you give people the opportunity first and foremost, especially those who are informed and engaged and willing to do that work for you in the first places. And then you talked about raising their voices. So yeah, thank you for that. Speaking with your constituencies and communicating why decisions were made and how they've been made, and understanding that that's not going to be the end of the conversation. There's going to be continuous feedback and a continuous expectation of, relationship building between your constituencies and the council.
Totally. One of my favorite parts was, I learn as much as I can. I go out, talk to the community, and they'd come up with like a new question. I'd be like, I actually don't know. I am looking forward now to keep digging into this and learning more about the subject we just talked about. So
yeah,
I love
it. It's not that hard to just be like, oh, interesting. I didn't know that, and when you just embrace that, it seems like things just go a lot more smoothly. Hey, rather than I do often, unfortunately, let my ego get in the way, and then you should have just engaged in the conversation to begin with, Anyway, wonderful. Okay, so like I said, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. And for the members of this campaign, I'm just going to switch us to a different background here just to remind folks who is behind this work. Thank you to all the organizations that have helped get this going for us. The importance of this conversation through council is it's ongoing, and it'll be ongoing for us as well. We'll be engaged with you and others in council. So it'll be, I hope to see you in representing your community. This has been wonderful. So any final comments from you, Sarah, that you'd like to offer? Just anything that about you that you want people to know, or any closing thoughts, really?
Mostly, I'm so excited about this work. It's so exciting to see groups like yours and the work you're doing, to see this moving forward. And I really love it. And I'll never be very far wherever I end up. I think I stand a good chance here to be on council, but just in case, I will never be very far. And I want people to always reach out, and so I can continue these conversations and learning and growing from the amazing communities out here, but in the city in general.
Oh, right on, Sarah. Thank you for stepping up to represent Calgary. This is the interesting thing, is we don't go away. As people who care, we kind of just continue caring. So however that looks after this, I sure hope to cross paths with you again.
Thank you. Yes, that's the joke, right? Volunteers are so lousy at sitting on their hands, and now look where it's got me. I'm running for council. This is so surreal. I'm so bad at sitting on my hands.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I understand that completely. Yeah. And thank you for investing it in this way. So yeah, really appreciate it. Okay. Take care of yourself for now.
You too.
Okay, just a friendly update that if you want to see more of this or hear more from your mayoral candidates, please use the new mode tool that we have created for you. I am putting the link in the comments again here. Also, please check out the Gravity Well website with the Calgary Environmental Roundtable section. You can see, I posted it here too. There you will see all the different ward conversations that have occurred, and some also answers from folks who weren't able to participate. Check them out there. And remember, please, to follow, like, and subscribe to the Gravity Well, because with your support, this will get amplified and help these candidates' voices get heard by your community. Thank you again for your participation. Remember to engage with it. Together, we can build a resilient, healthy, and sustainable city for all Calgarians. Thank you.